Hello and welcome to Robotnik Plays. Today I wanted to cover a game that I grew up with and really enjoy, Age of Mythology. It's been re-released on Steam and it's got some fun Steam achievements. So today I thought we'd have a look at Defeat the Horde, which is to beat 11 AI players single-handedly. This is one in a series of achievements of defeating AI opponents, and I wanted to show you my strategy for earning them. This strategy will work for any number of AI opponents. So pre-game, here's the settings you want to select. You want to set the AI to easy, pick Ra as your god, and set the map to Vinland Saga. But why Ra? Well, Egyptian units are cheap, and the race mostly relies on food and gold for production over wood. Lumber is going to be scarce for a little while, so it helps that we rely on lumber so little. I'll get into this in a bit more detail a bit later. Egyptian required tech tree buildings, i.e. the armory and market, do not require resources to build, making it easier to move on to the next age. Ra also gives bonuses to our economy, through both the rain god power and his priests, which can empower buildings, allowing you to bring back 23 resources for every 20 dropped off. Now you might be wondering why we picked Vinland Saga. Well, it starts each player on a small island with limited resources. The whole intent of the map is to force players to migrate to the mainland, to fight off, aggressive animals, the native tribesmen, and each other. But choosing Vinland Saga allows us to exploit a few unique quirks of the AI. The AI surrenders if it has no town centres left. The easy AI tends not to build a lot of town centres, meaning that for the majority of them we can just simply snipe their starting town centre. The AI immediately leaves their island for the mainland and doesn't look back, leaving their town centre undefended. Plus, they can only really attack with their navy, which can be easily dispatched. They will mainly harass your farming and fishing, so you want to protect them as much as possible. Remember to use priests for healing as well, as healing costs nothing, so you will build less over time and save on resources. Alright, so for starters, just start getting food and get your temple up, and be ready to advance to the next stage. The AI is going to be busy migrating across the mainland and setting up over there, so don't stress out about early rushes. The most important thing to do until you get to the heroic age is to preserve your wood and gold as much as possible, until you can trade it at the market, and set up sources of infinite food, i.e. fishing and farming. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of Egyptian buildings do not cost resources to build, such as houses, resource depots, and the aforementioned armory and market. If you manage to preserve your resources well, and don't go nuts booming with barracks and migdals, you should be right to do a sort of aborted fast heroic strategy, I guess. A fast heroic is an Egyptian strategy in order to get to the heroic age quickly and usually to get a Migdal stronghold up. Well, we don't really need the Migdal, but the same build-up applies here. Once we start taking out enemy town centres, we can island hop and exploit the resources they left behind. That way, when we eventually get to the mainland, there'll only be a few remaining opponents, and we'll have a good backlog of resources to draw from. Once in Heroic, you can start training your army. I use Scarabs as my main siege choice. They only cost food and a little bit of favour, so they work well for this strategy because they don't rely on wood and gold, basically. You still want to build up a little army to take with them, which I'll explain a bit later. When it comes to the different races and gods to fight against, there are a couple you want to avoid. I just went random all, but if I was thinking about it a bit more, I probably would have avoided some of the pitfalls of fighting particular gods. For example, Hades tends to launch his sentinels on the first town centre. This and other threats is why I usually try and bring an army along with the Scarabs. Kronos will use his deconstruction power early game to harass your fishing and remove docks, or really any building that you build on the water's edge. Zeus will launch thunderbolts whenever he gets line of sight. I think we lost a ship earlier because of that. Gaia will also spread lush, stopping buildings from being built until it disappears. She will also usually launch at least one enchanted forest near their base, which is great for a bit of extra lumber. Poseidon's buildings dispatch militia when they're destroyed, meaning our fight on the mainland can get a bit hairy if we have to force our way into one or more of their bases. Alright, now that I've got my market up, I can stop being so frugal with my resources. I want to take maximum advantage of the rain god power, so I'm building as many farms as possible. Skipping ahead a bit, and now I'm ready to hit the Mythic Age. I'm picking Osiris for the bonuses to camels and the Son of Ra. Alright, now I've got my army up, it's time to jump over to the first island. Whoops, don't forget to upgrade your transporter capacity. We want to pick a spot past their town centre to drop the army off. Scarabs are counted as siege and tend to stick to the back of the army, which isn't really what we want. They're both tanky and our primary way of dealing damage to the town centres. I found it best to set them into their own control group, and move them in separately before the rest of your army. In terms of the other minor gods, I picked Tar in the Classical Age and Hathor in the Heroic. Hathor gives us access to the Scarabs, which, as I've covered, are the cornerstone of this army. There we go, our first AI defeated, only 10 to go. Remember, you can continue to reinforce your army, and also drop groups of villagers on the defeated islands to exploit the resources left there. Next up, AI number 2. It's best to just work sequentially, slowly expanding across the map. This part of the game you really want to boom, i.e. build a lot of migdals, towers and town centres on the islands, for defence, upgrades and popcap. As your army gets further away from your base, it can be hard to retreat if you need to, especially if your transports get harassed by an enemy navy. Having defensive positions and forward bases to fall back to can definitely help. As I mentioned earlier, gold and wood are your top priorities. I like to have one set of island villagers gather gold, while another handles wood on a different island, and then just swap them when the resource is depleted. That way you're not spending extra time just moving them between islands. I've now got a substantial army upgraded, and it's time to take on island number 3. The previous town we defeated didn't actually surrender, so they've probably got a town centre on the mainland. We'll come back to them later. I was probably a bit close when taking on this Norse island, as my army started to rush in before I could send the Scarabs in first. It doesn't matter too much if you lose 1 or 2 units. I have a lot of them, and as I mentioned earlier, they're mainly there just to protect the Scarabs from any enemies we come across. Remember to also use your market to trade in food for gold and wood as required. I have it hotkeyed to 9 so I can access it easy. Here's an Atlantean town centre under Gaia. As you can see, it's spreading the green lush, and they launched their enchanted woods close by. This will be a good source of wood later. It's important to keep an eye on your island hopping villagers. You capture the town centres for popcap and just let those 7 mine out the golden wood. The food bushes that are there are less important, but you can get them if you want. Hathor's Citadel God Power will also give you a bonus 10 to your population cap. Whilst unit upgrades are important, it's also a good idea to get the building hit points and crush attack resistance upgrades as well. The AI will occasionally send naval siege against you, and with the size of the map it may take some time for your navy to catch up to them. Here we've got an example of some of Hades' sentinels. I've sent in the Scarabs to attack the town centre, while the army deals with the sentinels. Alright, so I've skipped ahead and we've defeated the rest of the island nations, and we've only got 2 AIs left that are on the mainland. You want to take your navy and your original army and establish a beachhead. Remember, while your defeated AI opponents have built up all along the foreshore, they won't be able to replenish their armies or rebuild any buildings, so anything of theirs that you take out will be gone for good. I've only really got a few arrow ships which I was using for defense, but some naval siege can help with this if you're having difficulty clearing out a sizable enough beachhead for yourself. If you're having trouble establishing a beachhead or locking down a base, you can actually head around the far right or left of the mainland. Most of the AI tends to stick to what's directly in front of them, leaving most of the island undefended. You can scout around and set up a base along the sides relatively easily. Looks like I got pretty lucky and I found one of the AI's town centres right away. While they generally stick to the beach, sometimes they can build in the most awkward of spots, or put their town centre in the middle of another base, so you might have to search around a bit for it. If you took Tara as your classical god, you can also use your shifting sands to quickly get reinforcements from your island to the mainland. Remember to check out your upgrades as well. You can easily out-tech any of the removed AI players. You probably also want to augment your army to Migdal stronghold units now, especially camels over the barracks units. If you're having trouble finding the last few town centres, you can also build lighthouses for a very large line of sight. Remember to also build a tower or two if you haven't already in order to get access to the line of sight upgrades. And remember, you've still got a Titan to use. Just don't launch it on one of the starting islands because you'll have no way of transporting it to the mainland. I'm clearing out the surrounding area, mainly just for a little bit of recon, but also to scout for large gold mines at unclaimed town centres. As you will have noticed by now, gold and popcap are your biggest hindrances when it comes to amassing a sizable army. Alright, here we go. I believe this Grey Egyptian is the last AI left standing. This is going to be a bit of a tough one. I'm fighting into the Migdal stronghold, an army and a supporting tower. And a lot of his army is protected between the Migdal and the barracks. Now this holds true for all RTSs, but just keep reinforcing. Set your Migdal temples and barracks waypoints somewhere near the point of attack and you'll always have a fresh stream of units coming in. Of course, remember to take care of your power units, like, in my case, the Son of Ra here. So if your army gets wiped, make sure you get him out of there. As you can see, I've got a few militia fighting me. The Teal Greek was Poseidon's, and I've got a few of their buildings in the crossfire. I should still have enough units to pop off the last town centre though. And there we have it. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you found this interesting or enjoying, or if you didn't, just leave, I guess. I don't know. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.